Good evening and welcome. Please make yourselves comfortable. I invite you to dim the lights of your own certainties for a while as we embark on an exploration of one of humanity's most persistent, poignant, and perplexing creations, the ghost. For thousands of years, across every continent and culture, in the marrow of our oldest stories and the pixels of our newest screens, we have been haunted. Not just by things that go bump in the night, but by an idea, an image, a feeling, a narrative. Tonight, we will not attempt a final proof or disproof. Instead, we will treat the phenomenon of the ghost as a profound cultural and psychological artifact. We will trace its evolution from ancient omen to modern metaphor, dissect its role as a master storyteller, and ultimately understand it as a fundamental tool for navigating the most human of experiences: loss, guilt, memory, and the terrifying mystery of what lies beyond the final curtain. Our journey will be expansive. We will move from the burial pits of prehistory to the quantum physics lab, from the Gothic novel to the horror video game. We will examine the ghost as a cornerstone of folklore, a driver of religious doctrine, a subject of scientific inquiry, and a mirror reflecting our deepest societal anxieties. So, let us begin our seance with history, summoning not spirits, but the context that gave them shape. Part 1. The Paleolithic to the Poltergeist, a historical hauntology. The desire to commune with what lies beyond is written in our oldest bones. In prehistoric sites like Shanidar Cave, where Neanderthals were buried with flowers, we see the seeds of an afterlife concept, a care for the deceased that implies a continued existence, or at least a potent memory. These are the roots of haunting, the treatment of the dead body as a site of significance, a locus for spirit. Our first literary ghosts emerge from the river valleys of ancient Mesopotamia. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, circa 2100 BCE, the hero's wild companion Enkidu dies a slow, agonizing death as punishment from the gods. Later, Gilgamesh, shattered by grief, conjures his friend's shade from the underworld. What returns is not a glorious hero, but a pathetic, whispering shadow. This apparition serves a dual purpose. It confirms an afterlife, however bleak, and it delivers a brutal lesson on the finality of mortal life. The ghost here is a vehicle for existential philosophy. The ancient Egyptians systematized the spirit world with bureaucratic precision. They didn't have a single ghost, they had a suite of spiritual components. The Ka, vital spark, the Ba, personality, often depicted as a bird with a human head, the Ak, the effective, shining dead, and the shadow. A neglected tomb, a defaced name, or a lack of offerings could cause these elements to become restless, manifesting as a Ket, a dangerous, revenant-like being. Egyptian haunting was a matter of cosmic ecology. Proper ritual maintenance kept the universe in balance. The ghost was a symptom of social and religious failure. In classical antiquity, the ghost took on its familiar narrative role. Homer's Odyssey gives us the first great necromancy scene. Odysseus, desperate for guidance, travels to the edge of the world to summon the dead with blood sacrifice. The shades that drink the blood gain temporary voice and memory. Their concerns are profoundly human. Ajax is still furious over a slight. Achilles famously declares he would rather be a living slave than a dead king. Most telling is Elpenor, who died in a drunken fall and begs for proper burial. His ghost is pure, unfinished business, a physical and ritual loose end that must be tied. The Romans, ever practical, gave us the prototype of the detective ghost story. Pliny the Younger, in a letter, recounts the tale of a haunted house in Athens. A philosopher tenants it, encounters a rattling, skeletal specter, follows it to a spot in the courtyard, digs, and finds shackled bones. Upon proper burial, the haunting ceases. The formula is now canon. A hidden crime, injustice, creates a ghost. Investigation, reason, uncovers the truth. Ritual, cultural practice, provides resolution. The ghost is an agent of restorative justice. Medieval Christendom offered a new, powerful taxonomy: heaven, hell, and purgatory. This created the didactic ghost. Apparitions were most often understood as souls from purgatory, returning to ask for prayers, masses, or alms to shorten their suffering, or to warn the living to mend their ways. These ghosts were tools of the Church, reinforcing doctrine, the efficacy of intercession, and the tangible consequences of sin. The ghosts in Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, or the myriad exempla of preaching friars, served this moral purpose. They were not merely scary, they were pedagogic. The Renaissance and Reformation presented a paradox. Reformers like Luther and Calvin denied purgatory, calling it an unbiblical invention. With no purgatory, there could be no returning souls. Official theology declared ghosts to be either angels, demons, or illusions. And yet, popular belief and reports of hauntings exploded. This was the era of the political ghost. The beheaded Anne Boleyn haunting the Tower, the slain Duke of Buckingham appearing to his murderer. These were specters of national trauma, of regicide, and political upheaval. They were walking accusations, born not from doctrine, but from collective guilt and unresolved historical narrative. The 18th and 19th centuries, the Enlightenment and its Gothic aftermath, saw the ghost internalized. As science sought to explain the world rationally, the supernatural fought back in the realm of emotion and psychology. The Gothic novel gave us the ghost as a manifestation of hereditary guilt and repressed secrets. The castle isn't just haunted by a specter, it's haunted by the sins of the father, by a hidden will, a locked room, a madwoman in the attic. The ghost of the past literally stalks the present. Simultaneously, the birth of spiritualism in 1848, with the Fox sisters in Hydesville, New York, democratized the ghost. Seances became parlor entertainment. The ghost was no longer a terrifying omen, but a potentially comforting presence, a proof of an afterlife that could be contacted through raps, table tilting, and later, spirit photography. This movement, largely driven by women, gave a voice, sometimes literally, to the marginalized, both living and dead, in a rigid Victorian society. It also clashed fascinatingly with the new technology of the age. If telegraphy could send messages across wires, why couldn't spirits use a medium as their instrument? The 20th and 21st centuries fragmented and multiplied the ghost. Psychoanalysis reinterpreted apparitions as projections of the unconscious. Parapsychology attempted to measure them with EMF meters and thermal cameras. Cinema gave them new visual grammar, from the translucent, romantic Victorian phantom to the corporeal, vengeful onryo of Japanese horror, Sadako, Kayako, reflecting specific cultural traumas. Today, our ghosts haunt not just castles, but suburban homes, office buildings, and the digital ether of the internet itself, in the form of creepypasta like Slender Man. The ghost has proven to be a profoundly adaptable meme, evolving to haunt the very architecture of each new age. Part 2. The Taxonomy of the Unseen. Forms and Functions. Our phantoms are not monolithic. They wear many garments, each tailored to a specific human fear or need. Understanding these categories is key to understanding what we project onto the void. The vengeful ghost. Onryo, wraith. Born from profound betrayal, injustice, or violent death, its power is often cumulative and corrosive. It represents the belief that some wrongs are so immense they create a moral singularity, a tear in reality that cannot heal until vengeance is achieved. Think of the blood-soaked Atreus family in Greek myth, or the relentless Sadako Yamamura. The lamenting ghost, the shade, the bereaved. Trapped not by anger, but by sorrow, love, or attachment. This is the ghost waiting at the window for a lover lost at sea, the mother eternally searching for her dead child in the river. They embody the danger of grief that cannot release, a warning that to love too possessively, even in death, is to forge one's own chains. The informant, ghost, the prophet, the witness, returns with a specific purpose: to warn, reveal a secret, or complete a task. From Hamlet's father to the three spirits of Christmas, this ghost is a narrative engine. It forces the living out of passivity and into action, driving the plot toward the restoration of moral or narrative order. The place memory, residual haunting. Perhaps the most fascinating from a phenomenological perspective, this is not an intelligence, but an echo, a recording impressed upon a location by intense emotion or repetitive action. The phantom marching of Roman soldiers on old roads, the recurring apparition of a maid scrubbing the same step. The popular stone tape theory suggests an environmental recording, making it a haunting without a psyche, a tragedy stuck on loop. The trickster ghost, poltergeist. Noisy spirit. Traditionally focused on a person, often an adolescent in emotional turmoil, and manifesting through kinetic energy, raps, moving objects, electrical disturbances. Parapsychology often links it to recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, RSPK, unconscious psychical energy from a living agent. This ghost is the externalization of internal chaos, the literal embodiment of repressed puberty, familial tension, or trauma. The ancestral spirit, found in countless indigenous and folk traditions, from the mania of the Maori to the revered ancestors of China, this is not a ghost in the frightening sense, but a maintained relationship. The dead remain part of the community's fabric, offering guidance and protection in exchange for remembrance and respect. They are the foundation of cultural continuity. Part 3. The machinery of meaning. Why we need ghosts. Here we reach the core of our inquiry. The ghost's endurance is not a failure of reason, but a testament to its profound utility. It is a multi-purpose tool for the human psyche. 1. Narrative resolution and the healing of trauma. Death is the ultimate plot twist, often an unsatisfying one. A ghost allows the story to continue. It returns to provide the missing clue, name the murderer, reveal the will, or deliver the final apology. It repairs the broken narrative of a life cut short or a crime concealed. On a collective level, ghosts of historical trauma, the slaves of plantations, the victims of witch hunts, force a society to confront the unfinished business of its past. They are the embodied return of the repressed, insisting that wounds must be acknowledged before they can heal. Toni Morrison's Beloved is the paramount example. The ghost is the literal and metaphorical weight of slavery's memory, which must be faced, spoken, and integrated, however painfully, before any forward movement is possible. 2. The externalization and management of grief. Grief is a form of madness. It conjures sensory hallucinations, the scent of a perfume, the touch of a hand, the clear sound of a voice in an empty room. Neuroscience tells us this is common, a side effect of a brain rewiring itself around a profound absence. The cultural construct of the ghost gives a benevolent form to this chaos. It allows the bereaved to interpret these experiences not as breakdown, but as communication. The ghost becomes a transitional object, like a child's security blanket, helping the psyche navigate the journey from presence to absence. It provides a space, a haunted room, a recurring dream, where the relationship can continue, be processed, and gradually, perhaps, be released. 3. The embodiment of guilt and conscience. We are often haunted not by the dead, but by our own unresolved feelings toward them. Unspoken words, neglected duties, secret relief at their passing. These psychic toxins can coalesce into a phantom. The ghost becomes a walking, talking projection of our own guilt. Scrooge is haunted by the logical conclusion of his own life philosophy. Macbeth sees Banquo's ghost because his own conscience, stained by murder, can no longer be contained within. The external specter forces an internal confrontation that we are too terrified to initiate on our own. 4. The denial of annihilation and the map of the afterlife. The terror of absolute personal extinction is arguably the deepest human fear. Ghosts are the primary evidence in the case against annihilation. Every ghost story, at its root, is a speculative map of what might lie beyond. Is it a bleak, shadowy Hades, a busy, bureaucratic purgatory, a restless, earthbound echo? The ghost provides data points for theology and philosophy. It makes the infinite, empty possibility of death feel smaller, more knowable, and often more just. Even a frightening ghost confirms that something of us remains. 5. Social control and the reinforcement of norms. From the medieval exemplum to the modern horror film, ghosts are often agents of moral enforcement. They punish the adulterer, the greedy landlord, the disrespectful teenager who desecrates a grave. They enforce cultural taboos around burial, inheritance, and family duty. The ghost story becomes a cautionary tale, a way of policing behavior through supernatural deterrence, especially in contexts where secular law or social pressure is insufficient. Part 4. The science of the spectral, between brain and belief. Any modern discussion must engage with the scientific and psychological lenses turned upon the haunting experience. Infrasound and environmental factors. Low-frequency sound waves, below 20 Hz, produced by wind, certain machinery, or geological activity, can induce feelings of dread, unease, and even visual hallucinations. They can vibrate eyeballs to create the impression of shadowy figures. Many haunted locations have measurable infrasonic signatures. The agent detection hyperactivity. Our brains are hardwired for pattern recognition, especially for detecting other conscious agents. In ambiguous, stressful environments, a dark old house, a lonely road, this system can go into overdrive, interpreting a shifting curtain as a figure or random noise as a whisper. It's safer to assume a spirit and be wrong than to assume nothing and be eaten by a predator, an evolutionary holdover. Magnetic fields and temporal lobe stimulation. Studies, like those of neuroscientist Michael Persinger, have shown that applying complex magnetic fields to the temporal lobes can induce vivid, haunting-like experiences, feelings of a presence, mystical awe, or apparitional sightings. Some naturally haunted sites have unusual geomagnetic properties. The psychology of eyewitness testimony and memory contamination. Once a location is labeled haunted, perception is primed. A cold spot becomes a ghostly touch. A settling floorboard becomes a footstep. Shared stories and cultural expectations powerfully shape individual experience, creating a feedback loop of belief and perception. This does not debunk all ghostly experiences, but rather relocates their source. The haunting is real as a human experience. The debate is over its provenance, external spirit or internal neurocultural phenomenon. Part 5. The ritual of release. Laying ghosts to rest. If ghosts are born from unfinished business, then cultures worldwide have developed rituals to complete it. These practices are a form of symbolic and psychic hygiene. Funerary and mourning rites. The elaborate multi-stage funerals in many traditions are designed to successfully guide the soul from the realm of the living to that of the dead, preventing it from becoming stuck. Jewish Shiva, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Mexican Dia de los Muertos, all provide a structured pathway for both the deceased and the bereaved. Exorcism and cleansing. From the Catholic rite of exorcism to the burning of sage in indigenous smudging ceremonies, the goal is to purge a location or person of a clinging, unwanted spirit. These rituals use potent symbols, holy water, sacred smoke, spoken commands, to assert order over chaos, the sanctified over the profane. Narrative as exorcism. Simply telling the ghost's story can be a form of laying it to rest. By uncovering the truth and speaking it aloud, as in a detective story or a trauma narrative, we perform a symbolic act of completion. The ghost, its purpose served, can then dissipate. Part 6. The modern specter. Hauntings in the digital age. Our era has not exorcised the phantom. It has given it new media and new metaphors. The ghost in the machine. Our language is rife with spectral metaphors for technology. Ghost in the machine, phantom power, dead accounts, haunted data files, bots. AI that mimics human conversation feels like a digital echo, a ghost of intelligence. Virtual hauntings and AR games. Games like Phasmophobia turn ghost hunting into collaborative performance. Augmented reality. AR apps can overlay spirits onto real-world locations. The haunting becomes interactive, a chosen experience of fear and thrill. The specter of data. We leave behind massive digital footprints, social media profiles, emails, cloud storage. This constitutes a new kind of afterlife, a persistent digital ghost that can be accessed, analyzed, and even manipulated through deepfake videos. The anxiety of this permanent, potentially uncanny record is a distinctly 21st century haunting. Global Gothic and cross-cultural specters. The internet has created a global exchange of ghost lore. The Japanese Onryo now haunts American remakes. The Mexican La Llorona reaches a worldwide audience. This creates a fascinating syncretism, but also risks stripping spirits of their specific cultural and historical context, turning them into generic monsters. Conclusion. The Necessary Phantom, a dialogue with the void. So, where does this leave us? In a well-lit room, perhaps, but one where the corners still hold shadows. The skeptic and the scientist have provided powerful alternative explanations for the mechanics of haunting. But to reduce the ghost to merely infrasound or temporal lobe epilepsy is to commit a category error. It is like explaining a painting by listing the chemicals in its paint. You have described the medium, but you have missed the meaning. The ghost is ultimately a story we tell about the borderlands, the border between life and death, past and present, remembered and forgotten, guilty and innocent. It is the language we use to give shape to the formless ache of grief, to give a face to the faceless terror of extinction, to give a voice to the silenced victims of history. When we feel a presence in an old space, we are sensing the accumulated weight of human experience, the joy, pain, love, and violence that is seeped into the walls. The ghost is the narrative vessel we use to carry that weight. It is how we make memory tangible, how we make loss speakable, and how we insist against all odds that the past matters, that the dead are not entirely gone, and that our actions echo in ways we cannot fully comprehend. The ghost story, therefore, is not a retreat from reality. It is a profound engagement with it. It is a way of practicing courage, of rehearsing grief, of demanding justice, and of imagining continuance. It is a necessary phantom, a dialogue with the void that helps us define what it means to be alive. So tonight, as you leave, you may hear a creak on the stair, or see a shift in the shadows. Before you dismiss it, take a moment. Listen. What story is waiting to be told? What memory is asking for acknowledgement? What unquiet part of yourself or of human history is seeking, finally, to be heard? The haunting, in the end, is an invitation to remember, to reflect, and to understand that we, the living, are the ones who give the dead their voice. Thank you.